Okay, so we are on lists in Kotlin. So this is the second lesson of the third pathway in Unit 2. So Unit 2, Pathway 3, um, second lesson, use of lists in Kotlin, Android basics in Kotlin. All right, so let's jump right into it. It's common to make lists for all sorts of situations in your everyday life as a list of things to do, a list of guests for an event, a wish list, or a grocery list. And programming lists are also very useful. For example, there could be a list of new articles, songs, calendar events, or social media posts within an app. Learning how to create and use lists is important and a programming concept to add to your toolbox, and it will enable you to create more sophisticated apps. In this code lab, you will use the Kotlin playground to become familiar with lists in Kotlin and create a program for ordering different variations of a noodle soup. Are you hungry yet? What we're going to learn. How to create and use lists in Kotlin, the difference between the list and mutable list, when to use each one, how to iterate over all of the items of a list and perform an action on each item. What you'll build. You will experiment with lists and list operations in Kotlin Playground. You will create a food ordering program that uses lists in the Kotlin program. Your program will be able to create an order, add noodles and vegetables to it, and then calculate the total cost of the order. It's pretty cool. What you'll need, a computer with internet access to the Kotlin Playground. All right, introduction to lists. Um, in earlier code labs, you learned about basic data types in Kotlin, such as int, double, boolean, and string. They allow you to store certain types of values within a variable, but what if you want to store more than one value? That is where having a list data type is useful. A list is a collection of items with a specific order. There are two types of lists in Kotlin: read-only list that cannot be modified after you create it, and a mutable list, which can be modified after you create it, meaning you can add, remove, or update the elements. When using a list or a mutable list, you must specify the type of element that it can contain. For example, list int holds a list of integers. List string holds a list of strings. You can define a car class in your program, and you can have a list car that holds a list of car objects. The best way to understand lists is to try them out. Let's create a list. Open the Kotlin program, add an empty main function. Inside the main function, create a variable called numbers, and make it of type list int because this will contain a read-only list of integers. Create a list using the Kotlin standard library function list of. All right, and pass the elements of the list as arguments separated by comments. All right, so val numbers of type list int equals list of 1 through 6. So let's put that in our playground real quick. And it was a val. Okay, because it's immutable, so it doesn't need to be a var. Val numbers of type list int equals of list. I think that's how it had it. List of. List of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Did I do it right? No errors yet, so that must mean I did it right. List int list of. All right. If the type of the variable can be guessed or inferred based on the value on the right hand side of the assignment operator, or the right of the equal, then you can omit the data type variable. Hence, you can shorten this line of code like this. So since it's numbers and it's a list of numbers, you don't have to say that it's a list or what's going to be in the list. So you don't have to say of type because it knows it's of type list and that they're ints. Use a print line to print the numbers. Print line list numbers. Okay. Okay. List 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember that putting a $sign in a string means that what follows is an expression that will be evaluated and added to the string. See string templates to see more. This line of code could also be written as print line list plus or list and then plus numbers. Retrieve the size of a list using the numbers.size property and print that out too. Size numbers.size. Okay. So there's 6 elements in the list of numbers. Run your program, the output in the list of all elements and the list size of the list. Notice the brackets indicating it is a list. Inside the brackets and elements of numbers are separated by commas. Also observe that the elements are in the same order as you created them. Access list elements. The functionality of specific to list is that you can access each element of the list by its index, which is an integer number that represents the position. This is a diagram of the numbers list we created, showing each element and its corresponding index. So the index starts at 0. All right, and this is the elements we actually created, indexing their positions. So 1 is actually 0. The second item is 1. The third item is 2. The fourth item is 3. The fifth item is 4. And the sixth item is 5. The index is actually an offset from the first element. For example, when you say list 2, you are not asking for the second element of the list, but for the second element that is in 2 positions offset from the first element. Hence, list 0 is the first element offset. List 1 is the second. List 2 is the third, and so on and so forth. Add the following code after the existing code in main function. Run the code after each step so you can verify the output is what you expected. Print the first element of the list at index 0. You could call the get function with the desired index as numbers.get 0, or you could just use shorthand syntax with square brackets around the index as numbers 0. Okay, so you could say numbers.get 0 or numbers 0. Print first element, print second element. All right. What happened? Just type it in again. Print line. Okay. First element is 1, even though we called the position 0. It called 1. So this element is actually at index number 0. This element is actually at index number, 1. But, even though we have 2 in there. Right? Does it want me to do all of them? Okay. Valid index values indices of a list go from 0 to the last index, which is the size of the list minus 1. That means for your numbers list, the indices run from 0 to 5. Print the last element of the list using numbers.size minus 1 to calculate the index, which should be 5. Accessing the element at the 5th index should return a 6 as the output. Hmm. Print line last index, last element. All right. Numbers, and then in the brackets, numbers dot size minus 1. Last index is 5. Okay. And last element is oh, okay. So it's saying numbers. Also, okay, so let me read this again so I understand it. Valid indices of a list go from 0 to the last index, which is the size of the list minus 1. That means for your numbers list, the indices run from 0 to 5. Print the last element of the list using numbers.size minus 1 to calculate its index, which should be 5. Accessing the element at the 5th index should return a 6 as the output. Okay. Kotlin supports first and last operations on a list. Try calling numbers.first and numbers.last to see the output. You'll notice that numbers.first returns the first element of the list, and numbers.last returns the last element of the list. Another useful list operation is contains method to find out if a given element is in the list. For example, if you have a list of employee names in a company, you can use the contains method to find out if a given name is present in the list. On your numbers list, call the contains method with one of the integers that is present in the list. Numbers.contains4 would return the value of true. Then call the contains method with an integer that isn't in your list. Numbers.contains7 would return false. Okay. Contains 4, true. Contains 7, false. Because it does contain 4, but it doesn't contain 7. Okay. Your completed code should look like this. Comments are optional. Access elements of the list. Use the contains method. All right. Okay. Run your code, and this should be the output. Lists are read-only. Delete the code within the Kotlin playground and replace it with the following code. The colors list is initialized to a list of 3 colors represented as string. Right? Okay. Val colors list of, and even though I could say of type list and string, I don't need to because it infers it. So it'll tell me I could delete this because it's inferred. Okay. Val colors list of green, orange, and blue. Okay. Remember that you can add or change elements in a read-only list. See what happens if you try to add an item to the list or try to modify an element of the list by setting it equal to a new value. Colors.add purple, colors 0 equals yellow. Yellow. Unresolved reference add. Unresolved reference. None of the following candidates is applicable because the receiver type mismatch. Public inline operator function Kotlin text string builder. Unit defined in Kotlin. No set method providing array access. Okay. The add method does not exist and you're not allowed to add a value. Remove the incorrect code. You've seen firsthand that it's not possible to change a read-only list. However, are a number of operations on lists that don't change the list but will return a new list. Two of those are reversed and sorted. The reversed function returns a new list where the elements are in reverse order. The sorted returns a new list where the elements are sorted in ascending order. Add code to reverse the colors list. Print the output. Okay. Reversed list. Colors reversed. Okay. List. So the original list is green, orange, blue, and the reverse list is blue, orange, green. Okay. This is the output. Well, I have the regular list up top. So, but yeah, it works. Add code to return a sorted version of a list using the sorted function. Okay. Blue, green, orange. All right. Sorted in alphabetical order. You can also try sorted function on a list of unsorted numbers. Okay. Don't worry about having to remember all the possible list operations. When you're developing Android apps, as you work with lists and other data types, Android Studio will show you the functions and properties available from them, as for example in the screenshot. By now you can see the usefulness of being able to create lists. However, it would be nice to be able to modify the list after the creation. So let's look at mutable lists next. All right, and guys, I'm gonna have to make a separate video of the rest of this section because I have to go to an appointment and I'm running late, but we will stop with lists and we'll move on to next. We'll move on to introduction of mutable lists in the next video. So I will see you guys there.